Welcome to Almost Pro, the podcast where we shine a light on athletes whose stories go beyond the scoreboard and the experts that guided them. Today's guest is someone who has built a career on proving that when the door isn't there, you can create one yourself. Though she considers herself an introvert, Dr. Michelle Payne has spent decades contributing to sports psychology in ways that couldn't help but put her in the spotlight. In the 1980s, when she was told that sports psychology only exists in America, she went on to finish her PhD, create Australia's first master's program in the field, and help establish sports psychologist as a recognised specialist title. Along the way, she's supported athletes across athletics, cricket, swimming, netball, and even the AFL draft camp in the 90s. Michelle didn't stop there. She developed resources so her clients could take her voice with them into competition, stepped into the emerging world of esports to talk to players in real time mid match, and now has co founded PokketCoach, an AI driven platform built on her own knowledge and methods. In short, Dr. Michelle Payne has spent her career asking, why not? And showing that there is always another way. Michelle, welcome to Almost Pro.
Thanks, Francis. I'm exhausted. I think that's the end of the podcast, isn't it?
We understand why you would be exhausted based on your
Yeah.
intro alone. What a
Oh, thank
time.
you.
What a
Thank you.
time.
Thanks, Francis and Laura. Thanks for having me.
You're so welcome. Michelle, your story is so incredible. It has so many chapters and such a journey of resilience as well. I think probably the best place to start is the beginning. Are you able to take us back, looking at, I think you're originally studying in human movement or trying to study in human movement? Let's go back to the beginning. Can you take us from there?
Right. So I had a mum who was very involved in my life, and she took me around to lots of universities to their open days to try and work out what I wanted to do. And at that time at secondary school, I was doing arts type subjects. I loved geography and I loved, reading and all those sort of history type subjects. And I went to an open day at Melbourne Uni and fell in love with the idea of human movement studies. And I changed, in fourth form, I changed all of my art subjects to science subjects. I shouldn't have done that, but I really wanted to try and get into human movement studies. I wasn't a great chemist or a physicist or any of those science subjects, but that's what I needed to get in. And I missed out when I was in year 12. I missed out on the marks by not too much. And I thought, oh, okay, right, I've got to repeat year 12, which is the best option. And in those days, they used to take 10% off your marks when you repeated because they said, well, you've already got an advantage because you've done the subjects before. And I missed out again. So I got into Monash Science, and there I discovered psychology. And I thought, every chance at the end of first year, I'll change to human movement at the end of that, and all will be good. I'm back on track. Got to the end of first year, and Melbourne Uni discontinued the course. So it was before.
Michelle.
It's sort of the days of what do they call it now? Exercise science.
Yeah.
And so that's proliferated everywhere these days.
Yeah.
But in those days, there was just the one course, and suddenly there wasn't anything. So I stuck with psychology, and enjoyed that, and thought I might make a career in psychology instead. So by second year, I'd sort of had my heart changed, and I was going to be a psychologist of some sort at that stage.
Well, the interesting thing is, though, is that sports psychology wasn't even a field in Australia yet at this point.
No,
What drew
no.
you towards that, even when it wasn't even in existence here yet?
I had no idea it existed. I was an athlete at this point. I was a track and field athlete. I loved doing hurdles, and I joined the Doncaster Athletic Club probably when I was about 14. And when I was in third year university, I was browsing in the bookshop because I love reading, and I was browsing in the bookshop, and I found the book. I found this book, Richard Sewin, Psychology in Sports, Methods and Applications, and it's a really practical book telling you how, as an athlete, you might improve yourself. And I thought that was absolutely brilliant. I thought, I'm an athlete. I really like this. I think this is great. And I'm thinking, I can use this on myself, but I can also try this on my friends.
Yeah.
And so I started, dabbling in those sorts of ideas and thinking, gee, I wonder where I would study sports psychology. And as you put in the introduction, I am a very introverted person. I'm the most introverted person I know, and for me to actually make an appointment with the head of department and knock on his door and say, "Hello, I'm Michelle. I want to study sports psychology. How do I do it?" was a big step.
Mm.
Anyway, he said, "There's nowhere in Australia. There's no such thing here. You probably have to go to America to do it." And
Mm.
I'm not going to leave a country, so I thought, "Oh no, I'll just stay here instead." But I didn't really have an idea that I was going to create the course at that point. But I wanted to be involved in sports psychology in some way, and so when I was in third year, I started joining. There was a fledgling sports psychology interest group, and I just joined them. And it was pretty clear at that point that what we needed was a pathway for postgraduate studies for sports psychology to be recognised, if that was what we wanted to have happen. And I
Mm.
luckily managed to get a job teaching at Monash University, beginning of 1989, and I had a very entrepreneurial head of department, and he said, "Sure, Michelle, I'll back you. If you want to create this course, yeah, go ahead." And so I did, with the help from some of the staff there. It was great, but I really wanted to progress the field, and I thought this was the best way to do it. So, yeah, created the first coursework master's degree in sports psychology in Australia. So I'm really
Come
proud of that. It's a
on.
really big achievement.
Wow.
Dr. Michelle Payne, we owe you.
Well, yeah, I was just looking after myself, to be honest. but yeah, it was good for the field too. Let's just say that.
Absolutely. You know what? It can be both. It can be both.
That's right. That's
Be
right.
with that. The pioneer.
So I sort of fell into it in a little way, but I'm one of these people that sort of puts into the field, and
Mm.
going along to lots of meetings in sports psychology and running sports psychology conferences. That's second nature to me. I like participating and making a change, and if something doesn't already exist, I'm going to knock it down and do it myself. So it's just
Yeah,
determination, I suppose.
that's great. And great that you had such a supportive university as well. You had,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Mm.
There was a bit of a race there for a while between Monash and Vic Uni, and we snuck
Oh,
in
really?
just before them, so it was very good.
She remembers the detail. I love
Oh,
it.
hell yes.
What was it about psychology? So there's sports psychology, but you started with just psychology. So what was it
Right.
about that field that drew you in and made you sort of think, I've found my
Ah,
space?
I guess it's just the asking the why question. Why do people behave in that way? What's driving them? Um, that's interesting to me. It's an
Mm,
endless question because everyone's different, and so
mm,
you don't have a one size fits all. You've got to work out for that person what works for them and what doesn't work for them.
Mm.
So that was where I thought
Mm.
I was heading anyway. I thought I was actually going to head into educational psychology because I have degrees in like a graduate diploma in educational psychology and a master's in educational psychology, and I thought that was where I was going to head. But I had an influential staff member who and it's very important to get good mentors. And
yeah.
so he was a mentor of mine, and he said, "Look, if you do a master's in education in a topic that I'm interested in, I'll supervise you in your own PhD in a sports psychology topic." And this is within the education faculty, mind you. So it was pretty rare, and it was pretty sneaky to try and get one through. It was very
Wow.
sneaky because afterwards I spoke to some of the administrators and said, "How did you get that degree through?" Because they have no idea. But
Uh,
he must have been very persuasive, I think. But having a good mentor is important.
yeah. Found a benefit for both of you. That's what you did.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. And that goes to the heart of what you're doing in everything you touch, Michelle, is to say, there's another way. There's got to be another way. Let me keep
Right.
trying.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's always another way. It's something I've found. I said to you the other day that I'm 64. I turned 64 a couple of days ago, and
Yeah.
it's something that I've learned over a long period of time is if you can't find the answer right away, just keep digging. You'll find
Mm,
another way. There's always
mm,
another way. It might
mm,
not be in the right time frame that you want, but there's always another way to get this happening.
mm. Was it your PhD, Michelle, that cemented it for you that it was never going to be educational psychology? It was sports psychology for you?
probably around about that time anyway. I mean, no one
Yeah.
launches into a PhD just on the off chance because it's a long haul. I think my PhD was part-time because I was working at the time too. So,
Mm,
juggling that, and I think the last year of doing my PhD, I was married and had a young child. So
mhm.
juggling madly,
Yeah.
all these things, and I had really bad, postnatal depression, I'm pretty sure, from not paying attention enough to me and trying to do too many things at once. I was writing a
Yeah.
chapter for a textbook, doing a whole lot of stuff. I was just crazy. So, yeah, I don't recommend that part of it, but
Yeah.
surviving it is okay. But at the time, it was just crazy.
You're in the thick of it. And I think the bit that you said at the beginning of being the most introverted person you know, you probably just kept picking pieces up and plugging away, and maybe others didn't even see how much you were doing.
Probably a little bit in the reeds. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, we see you. My gosh, we see you.
Yes.
Laura and I, from the
Thank
moment we
you.
had our first conversation, Michelle, Laura and I have spoken about as 2 postgraduate, um,
Mm,
sports students. So both having lived in the world of postgraduate sports studies, just the effort that goes into the creation of courses and the carrying of students. But what you don't know in the background is who's involved in creating that curriculum so that you can study those courses. So we had this conversation about the privilege of us two being able to chat with you
Oh,
and the
thank
work
you.
that you've done in a field that we are both so heavily invested in. So, if I speak only for us, there's a great deal of debt for Australian
I
students.
truly love teaching. It's the educational focus, I guess, because I
Yeah.
was teaching at university for many, well, over 30 years, and I love my students.
mm,
I miss working with my students. I'm pretty sure they liked working with me too, because I made
mm.
things very practical for them,
Yeah.
and I don't miss the marking or the administration that goes with it. No one likes that stuff. But so I'm happy to be out of university, but I really loved my time at university working with students. I think that's helped
Yeah.
keep me a bit young as well, which is also another benefit.
But you know what, Michelle? What I think from my read of your journey, and not to put words in your mouth, but you were never just teaching, right? You were always practicing and involved
That's
in
what I
other
loved.
ventures.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
it's not necessarily by choice. I mean, yes, I love teaching it, but I was doing the sports psychology on the side, which is good.
Mm,
Universities want their staff to have practice, applying the theory.
Absolutely.
But I would have loved to have gone and been a sports psychologist, but it's a field that is very difficult to earn a living in. Even now, it's almost impossible to be a full-time sports psychologist and earn a good living. There's very
okay.
few people in Australia who can do that, even maybe in America you can. It's where there's moneyed sports, that's when you can.
Yeah.
And it's quite difficult for most people to earn a living. So I often discourage, unfortunately, I discourage people, or at least talk to them about, if they want a career in sports psychology, you probably have to have another job that will sustain you, and you do the sports psychology stuff on the side because you love it. It's like professional sport. There's not money available for everybody. So my working elsewhere was teaching at university. That was my
Yeah.
career.
Yeah.
And then sports psychology was on the side. When I was coming through in the early days of sports psychology, a lot of my colleagues got jobs. They finished qualifications in sports psychology, but they worked in organizational psychology. So this is now looking at applying the same principles that you do with athletes, with teams, but now you apply it in an organizational setting. And so that's how they earn lots of money that way.
Yeah.
That
Right.
was their job, and they
Right.
did sports psychology on the side. So you
Right.
just got to have something on the side, the sports psychology on the side, and have a way to earn a living in the first
Mm,
instance.
And the way that that could potentially change is when there's money in sport.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Okay.
We're not there yet, unfortunately.
Not in Australia.
No, that's right.
Or no, sorry, not in Australia, not in all sports, and certainly not at all levels.
The moneyed sports are the ones that the men play often because they're the ones that are on the
mm,
screen. So cricket and football,
mm,
they're the ones that get the eyeballs, and so there's money in those sports. And for
mm.
most other sports, there's not.
Mm, mm. Yeah, it's interesting the flow on effect this has. I think from a fan perspective, looking at sport, you can see how, okay, investing in sport and the grassroots pathways to develop athletes and keep them in Australia can grow the sport, but it's that flow on effect for all these other industries that play a part in the development of those athletes and play a part in
Right.
sport that you perhaps don't as consciously put in that thought and that time, but it can really boost so many different industries. I mean,
Yeah.
Well,
ongoing
sport is an enormous industry in Australia and worldwide,
Mm,
and so there is that all that infrastructure behind the athletes that has to be paid
yeah,
for as well.
Yeah.
Not everyone
Yeah.
can afford to do it for nothing.
yeah,
And Michelle, especially at the time that you're pioneering in this field, you talk about the prevalence of financial offering amongst male sport or the access to money being within male sport. There must have been some difficulties for you being female pioneering in a sport field.
There was a time, and he's apologized to me many decades later, and he says he doesn't remember it, but I remember it quite clearly, where I wanted to work with an AFL team in the 90s, and this guy was the operations manager of an AFL club, and I was recommended to him, and he put out feelers to see whether I was interested. But for some reason, he thought I was Michael Payne, and when I said I was Michelle Payne, he said, "Oh no, sorry, that won't work."
oh,
And so it was so disappointing because
Wow.
I really wanted to work with them, but he just didn't want to work with a female, and that was just the way it was in those days.
Yeah. But you did get an experience with AFL early on, is that
Oh,
right?
again, I created my own little avenue. So, as a sports psychologist, I was aware of how many players, AFL players, were when they were interested in working for another club or interested in being recruited, or the clubs were interested in them, they would provide the player with a questionnaire to fill out to look at their mental toughness and whatever.
Right.
And whatever questionnaires the clubs came up with, these poor athletes, these poor players had to fill them out. And so that in those days, there were like 12 or 14 clubs. And so the
Mhm.
players might have been filling out 10 questionnaires from different clubs. And I thought, oh, this is crazy. So I had a really good sports psych questionnaire that I like to use, that I was well trained in, the TACE, the Attentional Interpersonal Style Inventory. And I loved that. I thought it was a really great questionnaire. And so I contacted Kevin Sheehan, who was running the AFL draft camps in those days, and
Mhm.
he still is. I can't believe
Mhm.
he's doing a great job. But
Uh-huh.
anyway, in those days, and said, look, I think this is a better way. What about if I run the psych testing and we do it at the draft camp when there are like 90 to 100 players all in the one spot at the one
Yeah.
time, get them to fill out the questionnaire just once, and then I'll analyze it and give the feedback to all the clubs in one go so they can see what that player is like. And so they agreed to that. They thought it was a great idea, and I thought it was a great idea. So we ran it, myself and some of my students at Monash um, ran this for the AFL at the draft camp in 1997 and did a great job. And then the next year, they gave it the job to a bloke to do. So it's just
Mm.
you try your best to knock on the doors. Sometimes the time just isn't right, and you just have to try a different door next time.
Yeah,
So,
you
yeah,
were early. You were early, weren't you?
just a
You
little bit
were
early perhaps. Yeah.
Yeah, you were knocking on doors
But there
early.
are lots of great sports psychologists currently working with AFL clubs who are women, and go them, that's great
yeah.
Yeah.
these
Yeah,
days.
so true. So true. So you go through this kind of educational era and this, pioneering era in sports psychology. What comes next for you?
So for me, again, so I'm looking at different ways I can have impact. And
Mm.
at that time, I had a client who had PTSD. She happened to be a sailor. Something happened to her that triggered an existing PTSD episode. And I don't know if you know much about post traumatic stress disorder, but it's very hard to cure. It's very difficult. And so I was working with this particular athlete, and she'd be coming and sitting in my lounge room. And we'd worked together, and she'd spent a lot of time in tears. She was very, very upset. And I would try and calm her down and teach her some new strategies, and she'd brighten up, and away she'd go for a couple of days. I'd see her twice a week, and she'd be okay for a day or so and then dissolve back into tears again, and we have to start back from the beginning again.
Mhm.
And I wondered whether I was actually being very effective because as a psychologist, you're meant to refer on others if they've got better expertise, but there really weren't that many people who knew how to treat PTSD much in those days.
Yeah.
And she wanted to keep working with me. She and I had a good relationship.
Mhm.
Anyway, I got to a couple of weeks in and just in tears, and I wasn't sure if I was doing a good job. And she said to me, "No, Michelle, if only I had your voice in my head, I'd be okay. I'd be able to keep going, for much longer."
Mhm.
And I thought, "Oh, that's interesting." In those days, it was the days of iPods just coming out.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so I created some short videos of good thinking behaviors that athletes could listen to that they could use whenever they wanted to. They'd call it up and it was like a 2 minute, 3 minute type video to remind them of good thinking behaviors. And so um, that's my start of my thinking about, okay, how do I provide resources for athletes to use when I'm not around, that they
Yeah.
could use whenever they wanted to, that didn't require them to keep talking to me each time because I may not be available when they need me in the middle of the
Yeah.
night, or my athletes sometimes competed overseas, and so I'm not available when they're away overseas, but they could
Yep.
actually listen on their iPod and to remind themselves of good thinking behaviors. So that was the start of it all.
Tell me some good thinking behaviors, Michelle.
Usually, it's because an athlete is stressed and they can't take on board new information or they're not
Right.
processing things correctly. So they all started off with a deep breathing routine to sort of calm themselves down a bit. And then I'd talk to them about just strategic thinking type things. What is it you can do right now that would be most helpful to you? So identifying, okay, what could you do right now? And it might be paying, if you're a tennis player, paying attention to your footwork or mentally giving yourself some good self-talk or,
Yeah.
those sorts of
Yeah.
things, just good ideas like that, that
Yeah.
just remind you, hey, you've got these resources, let's use them. This is the time to use them. Because when you're
Yeah.
stressed, you don't tend to remember these things to bring them
You
in at
throw
the
it
right
all
time.
out. You throw it all out, don't you?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And now, time for a short break. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to join the Almost Pro community and stay up to date with the latest episodes and news. To find out more or to apply to be a guest, visit almostpropodcast.com today. Did you see, maybe from the sailing client or other clients, once you had distributed these resources, once you made them available, was there any feedback that sort of let you know this is working? Was
Mhm.
Well, I had personal, feedback from the clients, of course, that they really enjoyed them and they used them, as they needed to, and then they needed to use them less and less, which is what you want. You want to do yourself out of a job.
Yeah.
Ideally, you don't want to have reliance on your clients forever. You want them
Yeah.
to grow and move on from that. So that's what we had happen too. So that was good. But
Phenomenal.
from there, I've told you about how I'm really interested in practical sports psychology, and so I created a textbook, a book, but an ebook that I wanted to distribute to universities. It was called Sports Psychology for Every Coach and Athlete, and it was teaching sports psychology principles that you would learn to use on yourself, or if you're a coach, you could learn to use on your athlete. And in those days, even now, I think there's not many textbooks in sports psychology that actually teach you how to use the theory.
Mm.
And so it was quite novel at the time. And um, I sold the book to courses that taught sports psychology techniques, and that was well received. And I turned that book into a course on Udemy, which is a platform that teaches courses. And so now I have a passive income from people who take my course on Udemy
Oh, yeah.
and learn how to apply the concepts themselves. So there's, those sorts of ideas was sort of through the mid 2000s, I guess, got me through there.
So resourceful. So
right? And
resourceful, Michelle.
creating so much more accessibility for people as a client or also learning the
Mm.
field.
There's this theme that weaves with you, Michelle, where you're it's like you're sitting in the front of even the technology field.
Yeah.
Obviously, not what you sought to specialize in, but recognize that getting people to access the resources that you have is not going to be one-on-one sessions.
Yeah,
You know,
it's
you
interesting,
recognize.
isn't it? It's
Yeah,
it's
it
almost like I
is.
foretold.
It is, it so is. You were able to see that, 1, you recognized early that the money wasn't in being the sports psychologist with athletes one-on-one in Australia, so you had to do it as part of what you were doing. But when you could see the need, you recognized very quickly the access to me needs to look different.
Mm.
That's right.
Right. I love this. I love this because it weaves your 64 years of journey. And by the way, happy birthday for a couple of
Oh,
days
thank
ago.
you. Thank you very much.
I can only imagine how you celebrated, somewhere between the ultimate introvert and way out there based on
No,
what
no,
we're seeing.
introvert is the way. And
I
I
love
hate
it. I love it.
surprises, so I had to organize it myself.
I love this so much. So speaking of surprises, let's surprise our audience then with what you did next. So, we're sitting here right now, you've got your headset on, I'm looking at you on a screen. This
Yeah.
is this
I
is
had the best time of my life from from 2019 onwards,
Yeah.
where I'm working as a sports psychologist. Actually, I'd given sports psychology away at that point. I'd given it away for about 2 years, and I thought, "Oh, I'm never gonna really make it. Um, I'm going to just concentrate on teaching sports psychology at university and making a living that way and just, finding my way that way." And then my youngest son was involved in esports. He was a part owner of one of Australia's biggest esports organizations, the
Mhm,
Chiefs, and they had a team who had conflict resolution issues and they wanted to talk to a sports psychologist. And so they talked to my son, Mike, who's the operations manager of Chiefs, and said, "We need to talk to a sports psychologist." And Mike says, "Oh, I've got one of them. I know one of them." And so he dragged me into esports, introduced me to esports. I knew what it was. So esports is online gaming, competitive gaming, where in this case, this was a Counter-Strike team and they play like first person shooter games, 5v5. And I'd never really sat in on any games before. I'd seen my son Mike play Call of Duty and
mhm.
and he was very noisy and often broke his controllers in frustration. But anyway, this was a different game, and so I got involved with this particular team and absolutely loved the immediacy of being able to listen to how your team is competing and maybe
Mhm,
make some suggestions about how they might improve things. And so I'd crossed into esports not really knowing how well the skills I had in sports psychology might translate to esports, but I found pretty quickly that it was like one to one. They translate so easily. Everything in sports psychology is exactly the same in esports, except in esports, communication is the most important thing because you've got five, in this case, 5 players who are sitting in their bedrooms or in their lounge rooms in different houses all around Australia, and they can't see each other. They're talking to each other in the game, and you want to make sure the communication is um, accurate, effective, said in the right tone,
Yeah,
bringing the right mood to the game
yeah.
in order for the team to be the most effective. And so I'd be listening to the game, I'd be watching on the screen, and I actually was able to talk to them sometimes in the round or between the rounds or between the maps and say, "Hey, if you did it this way, this would be a better way to do it." And
Right.
so I learned pretty quickly then that I could have a big impact on performance by participating in the game. It
Right.
was so much fun.
And
And I
immediate.
branched out into other games and just have had a ball since then. Been really, really great.
Yeah. I love the immediacy that you mentioned because obviously when you're dealing in the traditional sense of sport with athletes, they're coming to you usually after
After the
something's
event.
become an issue.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you're giving them tools and sending them back into the wild.
Well, you're also relying on what they're telling you is the story and what
Yes.
happened without
Mm,
you seeing it. Whereas in esports, I can actually see what's happening,
yeah.
and hear it as it's happening. So it makes such a big difference to me anyway, to my
Yes.
enjoyment.
Yes. And are you still doing it? Are you still involved in them?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I work
Yeah.
in multiple time zones all across the world in multiple different sports, and some of them have been very, very successful. Like very early on, I worked with a PUBG team over, well, it was a North American team, Sonics, and they were competing in Korea, and they were not doing very well in the beginning stages. They were one of the favorites, and I'd recently moved to Sonics with an Australian Valorant team that moved over there, and I wanted to work with them. And the the operations manager of Sonics had no idea I existed, and so I had to contact him out of the blue and said, "Hello, I'm a sports psychologist working for your Valorant team. I'd like to continue working with them and be paid for it, please. To do that, I'll work with your other teams as well, and I'll show you what I can do." And he said, "Oh, okay. Um, work with my Rocket League team first and see if you don't damage them. I'll see." So the Rocket League team, I approached them, and I had worked in Rocket League in Australia with the Chiefs team.
Yeah.
And with Sonic's Rocket League team, yeah, I got on well with the team there, and they made a few regional majors, and that was good. And so they gave me a glowing report, and then that's when this PUBG team were competing in Korea. And so the operations manager said, "Okay, this team is underperforming at the moment. See what you can do with these guys." And this,
Mhm.
at the time, I still was unpaid. So I was working pretty
Right.
hard to prove myself. And so I worked with the PUBG team and talked to them about communication and how important that was, and made them mentally tougher that way. And they ended up winning the tournament, won 1.3 US million dollars, and I saw none of that, but I did get a contract out of it. So I managed to work with the Valorant team as a result. The guy said, "Oh, okay, you are pretty good. Let's sign you up." So that
Right.
worked well.
And are you still doing that?
Yeah, so I'm working with a South African Rocket League team at the moment, and I've got a
Yeah.
North American Counter-Strike team that I work with at the
Yeah.
moment too.
Do you participate, Michelle? Or
I
you're
don't play the games myself, no. I'm
phenomenal.
I'm nowhere near good enough. I mean, I think 64-year-old reflexes, I'm terrible. But I can watch the point of view of one of the players and think that I'm as good as they are.
Yeah, yeah. You do that. Keep doing that. It seems to
'Cause
be
they're very
working for you.
talented.
It seems to be working for you. And so you come into this esports arena, and it obviously opens up new contacts for you
It
because
does.
you're on an exciting new venture. Can you
I
tell
love
us
it.
all about
And
it?
so I thought I better get back into sports psychology. And I was working also for a company at that point too, Condor Performance, doing some
Yeah.
sessional work with them. And they're just in traditional sports. So um, for those two reasons, I got back into sports psychology. I had to re-register and I had to reprove who I
Right.
was and what qualifications I had, and managed to do that eventually because it's
Did
quite
you pause?
onerous to.
Did did you say to them, "Excuse me, I wrote this course"?
I did actually. And they said, "Okay, right, you're in." So
Exactly.
it took me a little while to get there. But anyway, so yeah, so working in esports, and I've had some great experiences, really great experiences. And one of the one of the teams that approached me to work with them, the owner, who was also a player, wanted me to franchise myself and teach other people how I worked in esports, because I'm quite rare in the way that I work. I'm quite different how I work. There's not that many sports psychologists in esports, not good ones anyway,
Mm,
and uh, and so it's quite different how I work. And he wanted me to teach others how I work and franchise myself. And I thought, oh, that takes way too much time. I'm not really interested in that. I just want to work with your team. So I did
yeah.
work with a team, but I had in mind that, this guy was respectful enough that he wanted to work with me, and I just stuck that in the back of my mind. Then 2 years ago, another fellow in the US wanted to talk to me. He and I had been mates for a while, and he wanted to use AI to come up with an AI version of me. And I thought, okay, that would work better. It sounds like I have less involvement.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I'm
And
not franchising. I'm not
I
franchising.
it won't take up too much of my time. That's
Yeah.
what I thought.
Yeah. Yep.
Then he got headhunted by a company making satellites, a startup company over in the US, and I didn't hear from him for 6 months. I thought, oh, okay, that idea might have died a little bit. And then at Christmas time, just before Christmas, he said, okay, I'm ready. I'm back again now. I'm ready to do this. And so from the beginning of this year, he and I started working on this AI version of me. And I thought at the time, okay, well, this third guy, this other guy, who wanted to franchise me, we should drag him in because he'd be really interested in this project. And I had
Right.
no idea of his background, but turns out he's a gun programmer. So the three of us are actually very
Perfect.
well suited
Yeah.
to
Perfect.
creating this AI version of me. And I'm really laughing inwardly because I do like 12 to 15-hour days, 7 days a week. And so it's really, really taking a lot of
Oh
time
my
and effort to create
gosh.
this, but it's a very good product. And I'm just so happy to be involved. I want people to have access to really good sports psychology advice at a good price that they can afford, that they can use 24/7, that's based on my work. Because AI, if you're just asking questions of ChatGPT, you'll get an answer, but there's lots of crap answers out there. There's lots of
Yeah.
crap. And
Mm.
I was not enamored with the idea of providing something like that. There's no way I would be involved in that. But if it was trained on my work, which I knew was good, and the way that I work, which is excellent, I knew the product would be good. And that's the way we're working, and the product is really excellent. So I'm so excited.
Is there a
And
long way to go
oh,
before
it's never ending. So we're just at the start of our journey. The product is really good with what we've got at the moment. It will talk to athletes and give them great advice. It will teach them some key skills. It will you can do questionnaires and learn more about yourself. But we want to build the product even more. So uh, over the next couple of years, it'll get better and better. But it's really, really good right now. It just knocks everything else out of the court.
And what
So
is it?
amazing?
good.
What is it if someone's looking for it? How would they find it?
It's at PokketCoach, so 2Ks in Pocket, PokketCoach.com, and
Yeah.
there's a free tilt questionnaire on there if you want to take the tilt questionnaire.
Yeah.
And there's a way to sign up there if you want to have half price discount. Put in Almost Pro as the coupon code. Put
Yeah.
Almost Pro in capitals, and you'll be able to talk to Pocket, our AI penguin, for half price from now on.
Thank you for that, Michelle. I also feel like Pocket Coach is many decades in the making. So while you're at this point with your programmers and the three of you sitting around tables for what feels like countless hours each day,
Yep.
I also think if we reflect on your journey, you've been making Pocket Coach for a really long time.
I have, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's 40 years of experience going into it, and actually,
Yeah.
when the three of us started Pocket Coach, the decision was, do I go all in on this? And of course, I'm going to. And it
Experience
meant
suggests.
well, it meant that I was giving up the rights to all 40 years of my sports psychology knowledge to Pocket
Right.
Coach. And one of my co-founders messaged me and said, "Are you sure you want to give this all away? I mean, this is your value
Mm.
that you're giving away." And I'm saying, "Yes, I want this to succeed. This is what has to happen." So, yeah,
Yeah. It preserves the knowledge of a pioneer, in my opinion. So it's kind of when you've decided that practicing in sports psychology is no longer for you and establishing tools for educational purposes or the application for athletes is no longer for you, it's preserved, right? You've
it's
captured
my
it.
legacy. That's right.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah, the difference that this can make to so many people. We spoke earlier about
That's
accessibility
that's
and
the
this
exciting
ability.
part.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, it's a and you spent some time helping us understand the landscape of sports psychologists and access to their resources, as Laura's just alluded to, in Australia in particular. I've no doubt in other parts of the world, but where there isn't commercialization of sport, it is really difficult for athletes
That's
to
right.
access these resources, except for if they have Pocket Coach.
That's right. That's right. So we're hoping it'll
amazing.
be very impactful for everyone across the world. Regions who don't have access to sports psychologists, certainly not good ones. They haven't had in the past, so they should be able to now.
Yeah. What's the limit with PokketCoach? Where do you think it can go?
Well, I wonder whether it will actually wipe out my profession, unfortunately, because it is so good.
Oh, wow.
Hopefully not. Hopefully, it will just introduce people to to something they've never thought of using before.
Yep.
Because it's going to be so affordable, and it means that everyone from a very young age can get access to great ideas about how to think about their sport in order to maximize their performance, and
Yeah.
then that might push them and say, okay, I should talk to someone live and get more value out of it. But this could be a really good starter for maybe
Yeah.
younger people to be taught the right way to start with. That's
Yeah,
that's the way I'll sell it to you at the moment.
I love
yeah, I was
it.
just thinking that same thing. Have you seen any data to suggest that seeing a sports psychologist in person over receiving the help and advice via AI or in the headsets with esports, like you mentioned, is there any difference in effectiveness either way, or is it just about being able to be there in that moment?
Still early days. I suspect that the effectiveness will be as good. But what we're finding, and what the research is showing, is that athletes actually prefer to talk to AI over someone live because they tend to be more revealing of themselves
Yeah.
and say
Right.
exactly what's going wrong or what's going on in their head to an
Yeah.
AI. They feel safer to do so and less judged to do so. So that's the research, which I think is very interesting.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
Do you think it's the combination of judgment and consequence where their willingness to bring information to anyone
right.
is, is the consequence as much as the judgment?
Sometimes players don't even realize the significance of their injury or how that's impacting them.
Right.
And I'm really dependent on athletes being as open and honest as possible and
Mm.
showing great awareness. And that's how I can help them the most. And athletes who tend to not talk or not share information with me or anybody else, they're doing themselves a disservice. I think they're not
Yeah.
letting themselves be open enough to be helped. So
Mm.
Yeah, and providing a resource like you're creating in PokketCoach gives them a space to have that conversation in a way that is really familiar to people now, behind a
especially these days,
keyboard.
and the way
Yeah.
Pocket Coach has been made too, it feels just like you're talking to someone. It's designed
Wow.
exactly like that. It's designed to
Wow.
be exactly like talking to me. So it's very, very good.
Wow. Michelle, is this, to summarize, is this where you see your legacy in sports psychology in this particular application?
I think so. And this is going to be my big hurrah.
Yeah.
I keep telling my co-founders that this is the last project I'll be involved in, but it's going to be a big one, and I'm sticking around to see it through.
Yeah.
Uh, but I that's my legacy in esports or in sports psychology. But I want in my legacy, my private life, I want to be known as a cool grandma for my kids when they have kids. Because I
I
want them to
love
look at
it.
me and say, wow, look at what she's done. She must have been so cool. That's what I really want.
You know what? We in this moment, we're creating part of your time
Ah,
capsule.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. You're helping me.
I love it.
We agree. It's
Michelle,
pretty cool. They can give us a
Thank
we
call.
you.
agree you're cool.
We'll back.
Yeah, we agree you're cool. I would say your legacy started so early on, and as much as you are now in a position to capture yourself as a resource and the knowledge you've acquired over those 4 decades, I think there's an arm of an industry and an education sector combined that owe you a great deal.
I want to throw in that it's not just me alone. So I want to throw in that I was the recipient of some great mentoring and support. Like my
Mm,
mum was amazing, or is
mm,
amazing, but she was
mm,
amazing for me to encourage me to do whatever I wanted to. And,
mm.
my kids are my greatest supporters these days too. So I've just had some great support from people and I'm so thankful.
Doesn't happen by accident, though.
Mm.
Supporting good people is actually very easy.
Yeah, yeah.
Michelle, I love your story, and perhaps it's been said to you before, but I love the shift in you in the way that your face lights up when you get to 2019 and you start talking
Yeah.
esports. It is
Uh,
just joy.
You've no idea how much I really enjoy it. I
I know I
love it so
do.
much.
No, I do.
No, it's 10 times what you see.
I am almost tempted to be awake on whatever your South African hours are just to see you in the environment if it was an opportunity, because you radiate when you
Yeah.
talk about it.
I do love it very much. If you enjoy something that much, it's not hard work to do it. And getting up at all hours of the night is, it kills me. It kills me the next day. But it's no hardship to be there in the middle of the night to be working with my team. I love them.
It's a whole new baby.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A new phase of life.
I love it.
Michelle, if you could give one piece of advice to athletes or anyone about mental resilience, what would it be?
Well, it's the whole idea, I think, of just never giving in. Just there's always going to be a way. Just find another way. It's like a river coming down a hill. There's the way that everyone else goes, but there's always other tributaries that other ways you can go, and you'll get to the big river in the end. There's just not just one way. Just keep going.
So important. Find a new way. Yeah, keep going.
Make your
Love it.
own way.
Well, Michelle, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on Almost Pro today. And on behalf of every single athlete and past athlete, thank you. As Francis mentioned, we owe you such a debt. Uh, Genuinely so incredible to be able to sit here and have this conversation with you and get to dive into your story and ask all the questions that we want to ask. So thank you very much.
It's been
But
fun. Thanks.
before you go, we
This is the part I've been dreading. I do not like surprises. I don't like it at all.
Michelle, before we surprise you, you don't get to dread this bit when you just said the word tributaries on a podcast without tripping. So you're fine. You're absolutely fine.
No, you've got no idea how stressful I find this part.
Oh, we don't want to stress you out. I promise it's
All right,
easy.
I'll do my best.
Okay.
it's this or that. Doesn't have to be as rapid fire as we normally do. Series,
Let's try it.
great. It's a series of about 10 questions, and it's just whatever the first answer is that comes to your mind. That's the
Okay.
one that you can go
No
with.
pressure.
Okay. All right, let's get into it. Track and field or esports arena? Although I think I know the answer.
Yeah, it's going to be esports for sure.
Whiteboard and markers or AI PokketCoach?
PokketCoach. It's a winner.
AFL draft camp or Rocket League championship?
Oh, draft camp was so influential, so I'm going to go draft camp.
Long PhD thesis or short practical video?
The thesis actually set me up for 25 years of work and makes me a specialist in my field, so I'm going to go thesis.
Oh, that's justified. Yeah.
Love it.
Late night global time zones or early morning training sessions?
I don't mind either of them. I'm an early morning person, but I'll go for the late night esports. Thanks. Any day.
Athletics club mates or online esports teams?
Oh, that's so hard. No, I can't decide between them. I'm sorry. That's like killing my babies. I can't do it.
We'll move on. Next one.
Yes,
Cricket.
please.
Cricket nets or Counter-Strike scrims?
Oh, another one. My favorite ever experience was walking onto the MCG, and I love that so much. But no, I'm going to go Counter-Strike.
I got another tough one here. A quiet counselling room or the chaos of live competition?
Oh, no. You're thinking the horrible Laura? Oh, gosh. No, competition, thank you.
All right, we're gonna take a break from the tough ones. Sunset
Okay.
or sunrise?
Sunrise.
City life or country life?
Country.
Old school resilience or new school tech?
Tech.
Monash lecture theatre or Twitch live stream?
I'm at home at the lecture theatre, thanks.
And last one athlete at a time or an AI version helping thousands?
Oh, no, the AI, thank you. I want
Yeah.
Pocket to be helping everybody.
Yeah. Love it. Thank you for playing This or That. You survived
I
it and you did
survived.
incredibly well. You did.
Thanks, Laura. I enjoyed it.
Michelle, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for sharing your story with us. From breaking new ground in traditional sports to where you are in shaping culture with esports and obviously venturing into AI with Pocket Coach.
Who'd have thought?
We For us, we feel like your journey is proof that innovation doesn't come from waiting for someone to open a door or giving you permission, but just stepping forward and just creating what doesn't yet exist. So
And,
we are so
and age
grateful.
doesn't matter.
Age doesn't matter.
So,
Yeah. For anyone who's listening, if you'd like to connect with Dr. Michelle Payne, you can find her on Twitter at Pocket Psych, PocketPsych, and on LinkedIn. To explore Pocket Coach, head to pocketcoach.com with 2 Ks. And if you'd like to try it out, as Michelle kindly mentioned, she's offered us a special code for our listeners. Use the code ALMOSTPRO for half price access to monthly subscriptions. Michelle, thank you so much and welcome to our Almost Pro family.
thank you very much for having me. Have enjoyed it.
And to everyone listening from home, the gym, or on the go, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to follow and subscribe to stay on the Almost Pro journey. And if you've got a story to share or know someone who does, we would love to hear from you. Head over to almostpropodcast.com or our social media pages at Almost Pro Podcast to get in touch. Up next, a throwback to Michelle's first esports podcast interview, proving that backing yourself, even quietly, is okay and can be the key to success.
Any personal goals?
Oh, no, just to get some experience and go as far as I can, I guess.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I remember thinking at the time, actually, I want to be the best in the world.